From the broadcast center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, Burnaby. I am Chris Q with your 12 p.m. news. In the aftermath of the Hamas attacks in Israel last Saturday, residents around the world are gathering together in solidarity for the victims and their families. Our reporter from The Crow, Ben Borgera, describes what the community is doing locally to show their support.
The Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver is holding a community solidarity gathering this afternoon at Jackpool Plaza. Today's event comes in the aftermath of the Hamas attack on Israeli civilians at the Supernova Music Festival in Gaza on Saturday. The local community is also reeling today after Vancouver resident Ben Mizrachi was confirmed to be among those killed in the strike. Organizers of today's event are urging attendees to be aware of heightened security measures and to leave all backpacks and oversized bags at home. The gathering is set for 5 p.m. this afternoon. Ben Bugera, 1680 The Crow.
Our reporter Ben Borgera is here with this
The
slate
number
to
you
talk
have
about
reached
this
has
issue.
call control and is not accepting calls at this time. Thank you.
So Ben, obviously this is a difficult time for the community. Who is involved? Call him back. Okay.
This number has call control. To get through, please press 5.
Okay. Saturday's surprise Hamas incursions is the deadliest militant attack in Israeli history. The death toll has now risen to more than 1,000, and reporter Ines de la Cotera says the Israeli military is pressing ahead with this fierce offensive of airstrikes in Gaza that has claimed 830 lives and then caused widespread destruction.
We're also learning now that crossings are being bombarded. The Rafah crossing, that's one of the points where aid had been getting into Gaza because civilians, of course, cannot leave. And this comes as the IDF continues to lay siege to Gaza, blocking off all food, fuel, electricity, and now water to Gaza. That is unprecedented. Water has never been cut off from Gaza.
Aid organizations are now calling for the creation of humanitarian corridors. Air Canada and other major airlines across the globe have suspended flights in and out of Israel as the war with Hamas militants intensifies. ABC's Aaron Katarski says that includes flights with American Airlines and United Airlines.
All U.S. airlines that fly into and out of Tel Aviv have now suspended flights, some through the end of the week, some through the end of the month, as aviation authorities warn of the risks of flying through Israeli airspace.
Some Canadians who have been stuck in Israel for the past 4 days says they had trouble reaching the Canadian embassy during the Thanksgiving long weekend. British Columbia is the first province to sign a tailored funding agreement with the federal government as part of the $196 billion health accord the Prime Minister offered provinces earlier this year. The deal will see Ottawa shift $1.2 billion to BC over 3 years. Federal Health Minister Mark Holland says the funding also comes with a commitment for federal support for BC's healthcare system for the next 10 years.
This is concrete evidence of our two governments' commitment to health transformation. It is a key building block of the change that will see us go from one of the best health systems in the world to the best health system in the world.
In exchange, the province has developed a plan to increase patient access to the team-based family healthcare and mental health and addiction services. Mental health experts and school boards are offering support for kids and youth in Canada worried about the escalating Israel-Hamas war, as well as tips for parents on how to talk about the issue. Nico Ireland from the Canadian Press has more on the story.
The Toronto District School Board says horrible images of war will affect various students differently, and some may need extra support. The board suggests beginning the conversation by asking an open-ended question about how they feel instead of assuming they're scared. Kids Help Phone adds it's important to make time for kids to talk about frightening or graphic news and social media posts they may have seen. The National Child and Youth Helpline says parents can also suggest ways their kids can avoid too much exposure and care for themselves when they do see disturbing images. Nicole Ireland, The Canadian Press, Toronto.
Over 5 years, the largest U.S. city on the Mexican border developed a well-oiled system to shelter asylum seekers. The system is being tested like never before as U.S. Customs and Border Protection releases migrants to the streets of California's second largest city because shelters are full. Since September 13th, about 13,000 have been dropped at transit stations with notices to appear in immigration court at their final destinations in the U.S., with about 500 more arriving daily. Consumers aren't the only ones looking for a break on the price of milk, and Adam Burns from the Canadian Press has more on the story.
A group representing independent grocers is calling for a pause on any further increases to the price of milk. A federal crown corporation reviews the price farmers are paid for milk every fall and announces the following February whether that price will change. The Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers says the industry is in an exceptional situation this year, with Ottawa pushing grocers to stabilize prices. The Federation argues that any increase in milk prices at the beginning of the supply chain would go against that objective. Adam Burns, the Canadian Press.
Michael Ciarollo, the celebrity chef who inspired a generation of eager home cooks with his passion for food and entertaining, has died at age 61. The chef has passed away while being surrounded by his friends and family, who are now asking for privacy during this immensely sad and difficult times. According to the family's statement, they say, "We deeply mourn the loss of our beloved patriarch Michael. With his culinary brilliance, boundless creativity, and unwavering commitment to family were at the core of his being. He also brought people together through the joy of shared meals, fostering lasting memories around the table." Those who work with people facing homelessness and food shortages says employees are carrying a massive emotional burden as demand for services soars beyond what their organizations can provide. Warren Maddox, executive director at Fredericton Homeless Shelters in New Brunswick, says staff are witnessing more desperation, more violence, and more people in extreme states of crisis. He says demand from staff on the organization's in-house mental health counselor has increased and that it's harder to help employees see past what he described as an unending chain of misery. Tasha Lackman, executive director at the Depot Community Food Center, says demand at the food bank is on track to nearly double this year compared to last year, and that staff are working harder but seeing their efforts have less of an impact. Now in sports news, Raiders quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo has emerged from concussion protocol and will start for Las Vegas when they host the Green Bay Packers in Monday night in NFL action. Raiders head coach Josh McDaniels says it's good to have Garoppolo back.
Obviously when you get your starting quarterback back, I think that's, the whole team feels it.
Travis Leonard and Austin Riley hit two-run homers as the Atlanta Braves rallied from a 4-run deficit to stun the Philadelphia Phillies 5-4 last night to even up the National League Division Series at 1 win apiece. Riley says he was most happy to produce for his team.
We fight 162 games out of the year plus spring. We're with each other so much, so just try to enjoy it with them as much as possible.
Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and the Arizona Diamondback made quick work of another Dodgers starter, beating Los Angeles 4-2 last night behind Zach Gallen for a 2-0 lead in their National League Division Series. Diamondbacks manager Torey Lovullo talks about pitching to the Dodgers' Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts.
We're making pitches. Our pitchers have been throwing the baseball very, very well, and you got to, because they're two of the best baseball players in the National League. I'm sorry, two of the best baseball players in MLB. So you got to make pitches. So I think our pitchers are sequencing and landing pitches in the right spots.
NHL bans players' use of pride tape after previously disallowing themed warm-up jerseys. The NHL sent a memo to teams last week clarifying what players can and cannot do as part of themes celebrating this season, including a ban on the use of rainbow-colored stick tape for the Pride Nights that have become a hot-button issue in hockey. The updated guidance reaffirms on-ice player uniforms and gear for warm-up and official team practices cannot be altered to reflect themed nights, including Pride, hockey fights, cancer, or military appreciation celebrations. Players can voluntarily participate in themed celebration off the ice. Toronto Metropolitan University's men's varsity soccer team will have its season proceed as scheduled. The school announced Tuesday after an investigation into alleged concerning behavior involving the team. The school hasn't provided any specifics as to what sort of behavior prompted the investigation, which led to the team forfeiting games earlier this year. In a statement issued Tuesday, the school said it retained a third party to conduct a thorough and independent investigation after it received a concerning report about the team earlier this year. The statement does not specify the third party that conducted the investigation. Now onto the weather. The widespread rain continues for the BC coast into Tuesday with just enough instability to bring an isolated storm risk. And that's it for the 12 p.m. news. I am Chris Koo with 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month in Canada. There's many different ways people cope with mental health issues, and today we are taking a look into an outlet used by many, music. Today's interview is with the lead singer of Confessions of a Traitor, a band whose lyrics are inspired by their own mental health struggles and trauma, who hope others can use their music as an inspiration to push through and keep going. Welcome to 1680 The Crow. I'm Zach Clark. Today, my guest is Steve McConville, the lead singer of the metal band Confessions of a Traitor. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. I'll get right into it. When was the moment you decided to make kind of more heavy, emotionally charged music as opposed to, any other genre?
It started pretty early on, but it's primarily because, I tell you what, if I could sing like Scott Stapp from Creed, I'd be in a band like Creed. But unfortunately, I haven't got pipes like him, and I really enjoy breakdowns. And bands like Creed and Alter Bridge don't really have breakdowns. So I've kind of got to have this like nice balance of heavy kind of melodic music with a little bit of feeling behind it. It started really early on when I was listening to bands like early Trivium and early Killswitch Engage.
Great influences. And was that kind of around the time you decided to form Confessions of a Traitor? Is that your first attempt at making kind of more emotional, heavy music like this?
Yeah, so I've always been into heavy music, but I used to play rugby as it was kind of like my career for a long time. And then I kind of got over it very, very quickly. And I've always been into music in the sense that in school I was in choirs, I was in church choirs and stuff like that as a kid growing up. So I've always sang and always been really, really interested in music, but never really had the confidence to join a band or anything like that. I tried a little bit in school, but we did like a couple of practices and nothing ever came to fruition. So I think I got to a point where I was like, well, if I've got to do it, I've got to do it at some point. So why isn't some point now? And that was about 7 or 8 years ago when I decided to kind of go full bore into music and start writing and kind of expanding, or I guess pushing myself in the direction of being in a band. And then I met the guys online, and they had some like original songs written, but had been in a few previous bands and wanted to start a new band with a new singer, and were kind of looking kind of into that heavier genre, like that metalcore genre. So that's when I kind of came along and done a couple of recordings online and stuck them up, and we kind of bonded from there. And I came down for an audition, and they kind of offered it to me there and then, and that was it. So it was one of those things where it was kind of born out of frustration and a willingness to kind of throw myself into something brand new, and something that I really enjoyed, and something that I thought I could do, if that makes sense.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. The help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Siggi-Kane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon and welcome to your 12:30 news update. I'm Madison Buckingham and you're listening to 1680 The Crow. Here's what's going on in the world today. U.S. President Joe Biden has spoke up about the Israel-Hamas war. Biden is calling Hamas a terrorist group and is condemning their attacks on Israel.
The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil.
The reaction comes after reports of 14 American deaths in Israel. Biden also expressed compassion for the families waiting to hear about their loved ones. The U.S. has begun supplying military equipment to Israel and is looking into further supports to their ally. The International Committee of the Red Cross is looking into helping with the crisis in Israel as well. The organization has reached out to both Hamas and Israeli officials about aiding prisoners but have not been successful. Red Cross official Fabrizio Carboni says that there are concerns for the civilians in Gaza.
What we've seen is way too many people wounded, killed, and basic principle of humanity which have not been respected. And what we fear is that what will come in the coming days and weeks.
Casualties in the war have reached at least 1,800 people. We will be continuing with updates on the situation. BC has signed a deal with the federal government for funding healthcare and mental health resources. The province will be receiving $1.2 billion to assist over the next 3 years. Health Minister Mark Holland spoke at Vancouver General Hospital today about where the funding will be focused. He says that the money will go towards reducing wait times for medical treatments as well as addressing staffing shortages in clinics and hospitals.
This is concrete evidence of our two governments' commitment to health transformation. It is a key building block of the change that will see us go from one of the best health systems in the world to the best health system in the world.
Holland added that the funds will also contribute to funding addiction and other mental health supports. A Port Coquitlam-based company is working on a program to tackle not easily recycled materials. Vildecor Industries calls it their Planet Impact Program and are targeting items such as PPE, personal protective equipment, coffee pods, and food packaging. The project is being supported by the province's Clean BC Plastics Action Fund. The company hopes to expand to more municipalities in the near future. In Ontario, the Freedom Convoy trial is set to continue on Wednesday after a 2.5-week break. So far, the primary evidence being taken into account has been the social media posts of Tamara Litch and Chris Barber. The two are being accused of orchestrating and organizing the events of early 2022 in Ottawa. Barber and Litch posted online for protesters to, quote, hold the line when police ordered for the gathering to end in light of the public safety concerns at the time. We will update this story as new information becomes available tomorrow. In the prairies, the Saskatchewan Party is preparing to invoke the notwithstanding clause over its pronoun policy in schools. The government's legislation is to prevent those under 16 years of age from changing their pronouns without parental consent. Parents will also be able to choose for their child to opt out of sexual education. Additionally, third-party resources are being called to end their involvement with sexual health education. Only teachers and government-employed professionals will be allowed to present these materials. More details are to come when the legislature starts again this afternoon. Now for a quick look at the weather. Temperatures in Vancouver have dropped to 11 degrees Celsius and are expected to remain steady near 12 degrees. It is currently raining and is set to continue throughout the rest of the day. Residents can also expect winds blowing southeast at 20 kilometers per hour with gusts reaching 40. This has been your news to 12:35 p.m. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you at 1 p.m. with an update. I'm Madison Buckingham, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.